The last two Avalanche games have shown you a lot of things. One, I think they may have solved their biggest problem, but number two, there are still other issues present. I'm not going to show you any highlights in this one, mostly because most of the Avs' best highlights are their goaltending, and if I show too many of those, YouTube will take my video down. For some reason, they only seem to allow you to really show the goals, so I am sorry about that, but I don't think you necessarily need the highlights for the tale of these two games. On the goalie side, your goaltender played great in a game and won, and then played good in a game and lost. And while the Avs do need wins, and that's probably more important for the team, from the standpoint of analyzing the Avalanche hockey, playing good from your goalie in losses is an important thing that the Avs have not gotten enough of. When your goalie plays well, it allows you to look at the rest of the game and analyze more. Now, the Avs always seem to have an excuse this year. In this case, they've been sick over the last two games, so that does matter. That does come into play. It's probably part of the reason why the Avs' energy levels weren't where you needed them to be, especially in that Vancouver game. But we're looking at a team that far too often has failed to show up and put the puck in the back of the net this year. Now, in a lot of nights before these goalie trades, that hasn't really mattered because they were getting beat anyway. But now, with Blackwood in net, it's starting to matter more and more, not just because you want to win when your goalie plays well, but because the clock is ticking on Colorado. We're quickly approaching the halfway mark of the season, and then it will quickly be crunch time. The Avs should be in a position to be able to make hay in that time, but they will not do so if they struggle to score goals regularly. Now, this is a tough conversation at times because the Avs do have the leading point getter in the NHL on their hockey team. In a lot of ways, they aren't struggling to score. They have games where they pop off for tons and tons of goals, but then they also have games where they can't score at all, and it's a multifaceted issue. Sometimes it's your best players disappearing, which it happens. No one can play every game perfectly, but I think it's fair to say for players that are producing as much as Nathan McKinnon and Mikko Rantanen are, you would like it to be a bit more consistent instead of scoring in bunches and then not scoring at all. The Avs' depth continues to not produce enough. I think there is the ability to produce there, and they are affected by injuries that are limiting particularly their fourth line scoring ability and still making the Avs' life hard, but they have to find a way to at least produce functionally. You can't rely on Kivi Ranta to be your goal scorer in your depth every other week. He's just not able to sustain that. We know that. We have a track record of history with him that shows that that's not going to be the case. Even if he is having a solid year production-wise, that can't be the start and stop of it for your depth. While I do think that Vancouver game is garbage tier from the Colorado Avalanche, I'm also not particularly worried about it because I know that this team is better at production than they showed in that game and better at production than, frankly, they've had in a lot of their losses this season. They have that in the tank, and I am not particularly worried they'll get there once they get healthy, both literal injury-wise over this sickness and just overall solidify their lineup. So I do think these two games are particularly important for Colorado because they can look behind them and see, hey, we have a goalie. Whether we're playing well, whether we're playing poorly, we've seen our goalie perform. And I'm not saying Mackenzie Blackwood is going to go through the rest of the season with a save percentage north of .930 for the Avs. That's probably not a realistic expectation. But you are getting goaltending that's going to keep you in games, and it's not going to be a disaster when things go south. The world is a reciprocal place. If you're getting that performance from your goaltenders, you need to get it from your forwards in kind. They've seen it from Blackwood. It's time for the Avs forward core to respond. It's time for this team to put the entire picture together and go on a run. They have to at some point. If they want to seriously contend for a top 3 spot in the Central Division, for a spot near the top of the West, they have to go on a run. They could probably get into the playoffs playing a little bit better than they have and squeak into a wild card spot, but I don't think the Avs want that. I know the fan base doesn't want that. I don't want that. I want to see the best version of the Avs, and we just haven't gotten very much of that this year. So hopefully my gut feeling is right here, and this is going to be the point where the Avs really step up and start playing their best hockey. But I felt like the Avs have hit that turning point 3, 4, maybe even 5 times this season, and every single time their turnaround has petered out a little bit. If you peter out 2, 3, 4 more times, you're going to watch your season disappear in a hurry. I know this isn't my normal review, but if you're not on Twitter or anything, obviously there's been some not great news from DNVR and the ALLCITY network that isn't very fun. I am lucky enough to still be able to do this for DNVR, so I'm thankful for that, but it doesn't make the vibes any better in that regard. So, yeah, I just want to say thank you to those who support us. It's important to remember, whether the Avs are good or terrible, there are things bigger than hockey out there in the world. All right. I know this isn't my normal review, but I really do think that is the story of these games, and the actual production and plays on the ice didn't really matter as much as the vibe of the game. So we'll see how they respond in this back-to-back coming forward, and if things are good, vibes will be back up. If things are bad, we'll see. That is the end of this game video review. I am Rudo. Thanks for watching.